Adam Zarth here from the Illawarra Business Chamber with the second episode of Business Response, our video series to help Illawarra businesses adapt and survive economic hibernation. Thanks to our sponsor, Wollongong City Council, and thanks also to you for your great response for our last episode on how to quickly embrace e-commerce. Now we are online, it's important to know how to promote your business through social media and to build a following on these platforms. With me today is Kelly O'Brien, a Wollongong-based online marketing expert who is going to walk us through what you need to do to build and engage a customer base on social media. Good morning, Kelly, and thanks for being with us.
No, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So Kelly, across the Illawarra, businesses are wondering how do they very quickly adapt to the emerging environment that we have where they can't deal with their customers direct, and how does social media benefit them?
Sure. Well, I guess the crux of it is that you need to be able to figure out where you need to be online right now. Where are your customers showing up? And the reason that you need to be there and the importance of it right now is really that this is your way to build relationships with people. It's building that know, like and trust. When you can't have a conversation in the street or in your physical shop place, that now you need to be able to have a conversation online, then social media is your quick and easy way to be able to find your audience and actually have a conversation with them so that you can do that social proof as well, so they know that you're a credible business, that you can humanise your business, that instead of being the building that they drove past that was very bricks and mortar type of stuff, that now you're a human being that they can interact with. And as I said, building those relationships right now is really key. So
what would be a first step for a business, for argument's sake, that's never been online before? And I'm thinking cafes all over town, etc.
So the very first thing that you need to do is figure out who is your ideal client. Who is the person that if you look in your existing business, you have that person in your business that you deal with, a customer or a client, that you love them. And if you had 10 or 20 or 50 of that person, that would be amazing. That's your ideal client. Then you need to determine where is that person actually hanging out online. So you can ring them up, you can have a look online and see if you can find out the patterns of your own customers and what they're doing. And that's where you need to show up. So if it's Facebook, show up on Facebook. But as you know, Facebook isn't just Facebook, it's Facebook business page, which would be your first step. But there's also groups, there's also Messenger, there's also Facebook Live. So there's different elements to it, but you need to determine, if I'm going to be on Facebook, what does my ideal client want and how can I show up to be able to have that conversation with them?
So Kelly, how do you actually start a conversation on social media?
So that comes down to the content that you create. So before you even start conversations though, you need to actually listen. And that's the thing that I think people forget when they go on social media. They just start blasting out content, hoping that's the right thing to do. But the first thing you need to do is actually listen to what your audience want. And I think a really great example of this is my own accountant, who instead of copying and pasting what the stimulus package is, which so many accountants are doing right now, and I can find that on the government website, I don't need you to copy and paste it for me. They're actually providing comment in layman's terms that I actually understand. And for me, that's valuable. So when you show up on social media and on Facebook and wherever it happens to be for you, it's about being valuable to your audience. And that's how the conversation really starts, is you listening first before you talk. And if you can put it into a real world situation, social media and online is no different than what you do in the real world. So when you walk up to a networking environment and you walk up to me, Adam, you don't just start offloading all this information on me. We start a conversation. You listen first, you figure out what the question is, and then I respond to that.
Okay, so how does social media fit in with other platforms that you might have as a business? And do you actually need those other platforms? So in our last episode, we talked about e-commerce, how to quickly get your products online. Do you necessarily recommend somebody has to have a website, for example, in order to be able to be present on social media?
It's a really good question, because for me, social media isn't a magic pill. It's just a piece of the puzzle. So what you're looking at is, again, when we go back to that bricks and mortar concept, that you have a physical business. When it comes to online, your business or your shop front is actually your website. So you need to have different channels coming into that shop front. Otherwise, it's building a mountain and nobody's going to know that it even exists. So you need to be able to get people to that. So social media becomes a great traffic tool. So when you don't have traffic walking past your physical business, you have social media people walking past, and you can then encourage them to your website.
So if I'm a business starting from scratch, what channels would you necessarily recommend to me, bearing in mind they're going to have to be a case by case, but where do I start in terms of investigating channels?
I guess when we look at audience, and again it comes back to your ideal client, as you've just said, it is unique to each business. But Facebook is such a great place to be because the majority of our audiences are on there, from young people through to the baby boomers who are looking at their grandchildren and what they're doing. So we're all on Facebook, and it is a good place to start. And generally your customer base will be there, so you can start that conversation. And starting a page is pretty easy to do as well. And most people at this point probably also have a profile that they can start doing that with.
Okay, because obviously most businesses right now, their immediate need is just to get out there and tell people, perhaps for the first time, where they are, that they're still trading, and how to buy their products or use their services. So what are the immediate things they need to do to get out there?
Yeah, sure. So once you've set up that Facebook page, if that's the place that you're going to start, then video is really, really good. And one of the reasons that I'd say video, and even Facebook Live, which is where you can just get your phone, click the button and start talking to the camera, is that Facebook prioritises Facebook Live, so they will show it to more people than just, say, an image post or a text post. So, and the other part of that is, again, you're having a conversation. So if you're doing a Facebook Live, people can comment, you can actually respond to what they're saying via video as they're commenting and liking and doing all those sorts of things. So video is really powerful, and I would say if you're going to do anything on social media right now and you haven't done video before, that should be your first port of call.
Okay, Kelly, so we know about Facebook now, but tell us a little bit more about some of the other channels available on social media.
As you probably know, there are so many out there, and again it comes back to who is your ideal client and where they're hanging out. So the 18-year-old, Facebook may not be trendy anymore, so because grandma's on there, so they're looking for other places. So think about looking at, again, where is your ideal client hanging out? Is it Instagram that they're hanging out on? Is it YouTube, which is another platform? Pinterest would be another one. And if you're a business to business, then LinkedIn becomes really important as well. TikTok has become really big, so even one of my clients who's a health coach did a recipe using TikTok, and it went silly because people loved that sort of concept. So I think it's thinking outside the outside what you would normally do. Where is your ideal client hanging out? How can you actually show up on the best platform that's going to get your product, your service and your message to the right people? And understand as well that less is more. So I'm not saying go out and do every single platform because you'll burn yourself out. It's really about what is the platform that works for you. And if you do have multiple platforms, so for me, my hub is my blog, and SEO is really important to me, but I have LinkedIn and Facebook as my feeders into that, and Google, of course, with SEO keywords. But for me, I will, for example, do a Facebook Live on video. I might download that video from Facebook and upload it to YouTube, and then I'll take the embed code from YouTube and put that into a blog post, and then I'll promote that blog post on Facebook. So for me, everything is about leverage. How do I take one piece of content and leverage it so that I'm not burning myself out and my one message has bigger impact?
Okay, so we've talked about the different platforms. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about what we should be saying to our customers in the current environment? Bearing in mind, of course, every business has a different story, but what are the broad pieces of advice you would give?
This is a tricky one, and there are so many different people with so many different opinions about what you should and shouldn't do in the current climate, so it makes it really challenging. But I think as a first point, actually pinning a post to the top of your Facebook page that tells people or that is transparent about what your situation is. And I think right now you need to be authentic and you need to be transparent, because that's what people want to hear. They want to know where you're at, whether they can still do business with you. For example, my hairdresser rang yesterday to let me know that even though the post at the top of their Facebook page had been saying that they were closed because they couldn't see how they were going to be able to continue, they'd just changed that to let us know that, hey, we're going to do one-on-one, just the hairdresser and a customer in the salon. So those things is selling, but for me, selling is about service. So don't be scared to sell in this climate, because people will value what you do still. And I think there are messages about we shouldn't sell, it's insensitive, all those sorts of things. But as long as your tone and your language are sensitive to the situation, and that you are thinking about other people's needs, then we still need you to sell. We still need you out there. It still helps us and it benefits us. So you need to think about, how does your business benefit someone right now? And even thinking about your one of the things I love about social media is this idea that we can adapt our marketing plans really quickly and let people know about it. So a really good example of that is one agency, JD Property Agents in Fairy Meadow. They're a real estate agent that every year does an Easter egg hunt at the local park up there. It's huge. Heaps and heaps of kids come and they do their Easter egg hunt. Now this year, that can't happen, obviously, because of coronavirus. So their idea now, instead of doing that, is they took their virtual reality technology that they would usually use to do a tour of a house, and they planted Easter eggs through this house, did the VR technology, and that was their Easter egg hunt. And it meant that the kids still had a great time, meant they still got to do their Easter egg hunt. And this was an off-market property that just so happened to get interest from people saying, hey, can I come and actually have a look in the property now? So that wouldn't have happened without those things. So look at your own marketing plan. How can you adapt it? How can you change? What needs to be put on hold? What can you actually adapt in this environment and still go ahead with, maybe in a different format? Because people still want to see that you're marketing your business. They still want to hear from you. So for the people who are busy, you need to keep marketing. And I see this, and this is outside of the current climate. Even when you're marketing all the time. You don't market to get a whole bunch of clients and then stop and then it goes cold, and then you're hoping for customers after that. It's about continually putting your messaging out there, letting people know what you're doing, being human and building those relationships still while you're busy. When you're slow and it's harder to get clients, the idea is to think about what's the long term. So if I'm building a database, as I mentioned earlier, if you're building a database, that's your ability when we do come back around, that in 3, 6, however many months that it's going to be that we're in this situation, you come out with a bang, that your business is all set up, you've got your customer base, you've had the relationships with people and or the conversations with people to build those relationships, so that when we do get to the end of this, you're in the best position possible.
We're going to be in this situation, unfortunately, for between 6 to 12 months. People need to build a marketing plan at the same time as they're adapting very rapidly. What do you recommend needs to sit in a marketing plan at the bare minimum?
So figure out what your goals are. What are the goals that you have set for the next 6 to 12 months? So I always look at a 12-month plan, and then I break that plan into 90-day sets. So that's what I tend to do. So in our 90-day plan, what's the focus for the next 90 days or the next quarter that you want to look at? So if it's list building, then what can I do to build my database? What can I offer people that actually brings them in? So do you have a resource? Do you have something that you can get out? I think the Zigzag Hub in the mall here in Wollongong are doing business programs for kids so that they can become young entrepreneurs, which I think is a wonderful thing to be able to do right now to get those get the right people in the door, engaging with them, building the relationships, so that when they want to do their program in person, they've already got their audience set. So that's really important to think about. If it's customers right now that you're looking at, for me, for example, in my business as a marketing business, most people don't say yes straight away unless they're a referral. They want time to think about it. Great, you've got all the time in the world right now, as long as I'm having those conversations now.
Before we wrap up, just give us a few quick tips, if you could, about how to establish a really good two-way conversation.
Again, this comes down to the content that you're putting out there. So there's lots of different content you can do right now. I always think being human and showing behind the scenes of your business is really interesting. So Adam, what does it look like you working from home, for example? What does the office actually look like? Is it the kitchen table or do you have an office? People love the behind the scenes. So showing that stuff is really engaging and gets people interested to want to have a conversation with you. Then the other things are your why and your values. So even sharing, why did I even start in business? Why is this even important? You know, why do I do what I do? People want to hear your story, and storytelling to me is the ultimate because we get engaged. It's that idea that you can paint mental pictures inside someone's head so that they feel like they're experiencing it even if they're not there. So that's what I love about storytelling. A bit of humour doesn't go astray either. There's a great one, a chocolate shop, for example, did a post around helping my son look for the chocolate that I ate last night, or that concept of just having a bit of humour. Right now, that's what we need. And if you're the business that can make someone laugh and it's still sensitive, then I think that's important as well. And I guess anything that humanises your business right now is really important. So it's still okay to sell, it's still okay to show the services that you're having, but as far as the conversations, be human. Show us who you are and why we should care about you, because in the end, when there's two coffee shops on the corner and they both do coffee and both have the same taste and both at the same price, I tend to go with the person that I relate to most. So be human.
Thanks, Kelly. So in summing up, what final advice would you leave for our members and businesses across the Illawarra who are adapting to survive right now on social media?
I guess, Adam, that the key really is to keep having conversations, and the reason for that is those conversations are going to pay you back in the long run. So keep the relationships going, don't stop marketing, make sure that when we come out of this that you're in the best position possible.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Kelly. It's been such a pleasure to hear from you and to benefit from your insights.
No, not a problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly. Now we've got the basis of a social media strategy that should be adaptable for any small business and help shift to a contactless environment. Thanks for joining us, and thank you again to our sponsor, Wollongong City Council, and production partner, Relativity.